If there was an award, if there was an award for shortest podcast episode ever, this would probably win it. But I just want to be topical. I want to talk about, I like topical, and I want to talk about what everyone in the UK is talking about right now, even though everyone else is talking about it, which is how hot it is, but in the sense of websites. So the schools are closed. So I've done a webinar today, second one in the series about the agentic web, with the kids home. It's giving proper lockdown vibes because you're trying to work and you're homeschooling. Plus, everyone's just a little bit more grouchy, or they are, because they haven't slept haven't slept well at all. I can't speak because I've done a webinar today, but I have got 10 minutes right now. So I just thought I would talk about how to consider how your website does in an emergency. So there was a mum I was hearing about on the school run yesterday, a legendary mum who has had air conditioning fitted in her house. And when she did it, everyone was like, why are you doing that? And now she's done it and she is sitting pretty. It's downstairs and it's in the master bedroom. Oh my goodness. No one in the UK has got air conditioning, or very few. I think a lot more new builds will be having it going forwards. But how awesome is that? So she took that gamble. She did that thing that possibly wasn't needed, and now it has paid off, and she is going to be really, really glad about it. So with your website, what would happen in an emergency? And that emergency might be your developer disappears, you lose access to stuff. It might be that you get a surge of traffic. It might be that something accidentally goes viral, the BBC linked to you for some reason, and you're getting loads of people come to you, which is a nice problem to have, but your site can't handle it. How are you prepared for an extreme situation? And this, with this week, just feels like a really good example of an extreme situation. But the question you are really allowed to ask yourself is, does it matter if you can't cope? If you can't handle a big surge of traffic and your site goes down, does that really matter? Is it better for you that you're offline for a little while? But let me tell you, being down isn't good for an SEO and AI point of view. So, from a search, being found, discoverability point of view, you really don't want to be offline. But that aside, is it better for you to not be taking orders for 24 hours than to spend thousands a month instead of tens or hundreds a month on hosting that can handle it? Because that's the other thing to remember. You can't, in an extreme situation, you can't get angry with your hosting provider or with your agency if your site can't handle it. If this is not the norm, if this is well beyond what you should be expected to do. When we migrated a client to AWS, this was about 9 years ago, they were getting about 5,000 people every second. So that's something else to think about. I'm not talking about, well, something you need to think about is not just how many visitors you get in a day, in a week, in a month. How many can you handle at one moment? So we had a client who could handle 5,000 in one moment, but they wanted to grow. So they said, when you migrate us, when you set up the new architecture, make sure we can handle 15,000 in one moment. Fine, did that. Then something massive happened on the world stage. They went viral. They got 2.4 million visitors in a day, and things can still be high now as a consequence of the world being the crazy world that it is. So on that particular time, that is like 70,000 people a second. I think they were having in that window, 70,000 people a second, and I had the number 70,000 in my head, but it is possible it was 35,000 because we were talking about double eyes. No, I don't know. It was tens of thousands. It was a lot more than they were expecting. And the site could handle it, but we worked on it day and night, like through the night, to change how the database worked and stuff and stuff. There's always more you can do. My point is, you might not want to pay what they pay for hosting, and you might not want to pay your developers to work around the clock in an eventuality where the site might go down. But you need to have those plans, and you need to know what your site can handle so that you can make those decisions. So that's kind of the first thing. It's really understandable for you not to know how many visitors your site could take in one moment, and it's not something you'll just be able to ask your developer or ask your host. Every website is fractionally different, how it holds itself, how it carries itself, the functions it runs overnight. Even if it's a WordPress and your developer is the most experienced WordPress developer in the world, they're not going to be able to tell you exactly how many people it can handle in one moment, because it also depends what those people are doing, if they're clicking around or if they're just sat reading something. So the way you test this as much as you can is with load testing. If you Google load testing services, they're crazy expensive. 8 years ago, we were quoted like £6,000 for this client, so we just did it ourselves. Now we do it for clients, and it's a couple of hundred, few hundred quid. So let me know before you spend crazy amounts on load testing, because we might be able to help with that. But that just gives you an idea of, if you throw loads of traffic at it, you just keep throwing traffic at the site until it falls over. It's a bit uh, like squeaky bum territory to do it on a live site, because you are effectively trying to bring it down. So you do it at a really quiet time, or most ideally you set up an identical situation that you can test. That's obviously what you would ideally do. But if you're really trying to do it by the skin of your teeth, like as cheaply as possible, you just pick a time when it doesn't matter if the site blips down for a moment, knowing that the traffic will then stop immediately and come back up. Or really, when we do it, I think Tom tends to like just watch the levels, and when he thinks, no, this site is starting to struggle now, he stops then. He doesn't take it as far as bringing it down. So anyway, understand what you can handle, understand what you can't handle, and then think about what it's worth to you to be able to handle it. And it is fine if your company decision is it's not worth it to us. You get the people who the site goes down for 10 minutes and they're like, oh, what can we do in the future to avoid this? And it's like, well, stuff happens. Stuff can always go happen. And I don't take downtime lightly. Like this client from 8 years ago, who we still work with now, they don't have downtime, but they pay a lot of money. They are well set up for it. This other client who had 10 minutes downtime or something was like, how can we make sure this never happens again? And I'm like, well, that particular reason that happened, you can't really make sure that never happens again. That whatever thing happened on the server at the data center. Oh, the other day it was that someone doing roadwork somewhere had dug through the cable to the data center. It's like, oh my goodness. So what do you do for that? You do like redundancy stuff. You have like the big one that I was talking about has like auto scaling, so it can scale up. This all comes with such a massive price tag. So the question then goes back to that client. If you need 100% the people who had 10 minutes down and weren't happy about it, if you have 10 minutes downtime, or if you want 100% uptime, this is what you'll have to put in place. This is what it will cost you. And then they have to decide if they would rather pay that bill, or if they would rather have a stable site, but in a freak moment it goes down. It's kind of how it is. That's kind of just something you have to put up with. So it's under and it's understanding what you can handle and thinking about what you would ideally want to happen in a disaster and being prepared for it. Knowing contacts, having your DNS set up in the right way so that you can quickly divert people to a holding page if you needed to, with an email address field form saying, please send us your email address and we'll get back to you. Really sorry this has happened. That doesn't happen quickly. We have done things like that fairly quickly for a client when they've had an issue or something, but it's the propagation of the domain. We could do the page in a few minutes, but the propagation of the domain could take hours or days for the DNS, for the internet to stop looking over there for the hosting and to look there instead. So then you need to make sure your DNS is set up in such a way that you can flick it at the flick of a switch. And instead of saying, right, hosting is there, you say hosting is there, make sure it's updated within 5 minutes. So there are things you can do, there are things you can put in place, but you need to have those conversations. And these aren't standard things, so you can't expect an agency or a developer to already have DNS stuff in place automatically. That means they can switch you at the drop of a hat, and to already have a sorry, we're currently experiencing technical difficulties site ready necessarily at the drop of a hat. You need to have the conversations, you need to know what's available, what it would cost you, weigh up the pros and cons, because you might never need it. And if the developer had done all that work from the offset, it would have added to the initial cost anyway. You can guarantee the person who was quoting less than them didn't include it. So it's understanding where you stand, thinking what you would need in an emergency, and really trying to find the time to sort this out, because it's one of those things that doesn't feel like a priority. You have to really carve time out for it. It's not a priority until it happens, and then you wish you had sorted it out. So you need to be that mum with the air conditioning. Even if you don't buy the air conditioning, you need to have found out the cost of the air conditioning and made the conscious decision, do you want it or do you not? And then if you don't want it and a disaster strikes, you think, this is fine, we weighed it all up, we made our decision. You pays your money and makes your choices. And yeah, just have the conversation internally with your agency, with the developer. Look me up if you want, have the conversation with me, and just think about your options and know where you stand and know what to do and who to contact in an emergency. Hope that helps.